everybody, Kit Walski here, checking in with a brand new video where we are going to be giving a in-depth update and analysis on the lawsuit between the video game Tardigrades and CBS for Discovery. I've done 2 videos on this already, and there are a lot of other people doing videos about this particular topic, but just to quickly catch everybody up, bottom line is an individual, an indie gamer named Anas, started up a game called Tardigrades almost 4 or 5 years ago, and in it, a blonde-haired astronaut-typed being gets enveloped by a giant blue tardigrade and uses blue mystical lights on tiny little spores to zip around the entire galaxy and save the galaxy and do various different missions and things like that. Including that, there's also a whole thing about the character similarities between his game and that of Discovery. They have a black female captain character. They have the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white scientist who also happens to be gay. He has a partner that's gay in his video game, similar to that of Star Trek Discovery. The lawsuit itself right now is zeroing in on the use of the blonde-haired, white homosexual scientist character and the use of a blue tardigrade for space travel. That's what the lawsuit's kind of focused in on right now. Beyond the other similarities, that's what they've zeroed in on them. And so far what CBS has done is initially they ignored his claim, then they denied his claims that there was any similarities, so he decided to take them to court in New York, and CBS responded by hiring the same lawyer and lawsuit company that they used for the Axanar videos, which is kind of serious for him, and also kind of lends a lot of credence to the fact that this claim is serious and CBS is taking it seriously, as serious as they took Axanar, which was a multi-million-dollar production that they were putting together, and CBS had to shut that thing down and essentially change the entire landscape of fan films forever because of that. So since they've hired that individual along with that same company to represent them in this lawsuit, I think that that really goes to show exactly how much credibility goes towards Anas's lawsuit. A lot of people are saying, well, he doesn't have a leg to stand on. It's BS. It's just kind of similar. It's not that big of a deal. Well, the fact that they hired this particular guy and the information I'm going to provide you guys with today should kind of quiet down those people who are basically naysayers for this particular lawsuit and saying that it's kind of fair use. So the first big thing is after they hired this particular lawyer, I'm not going to say his name. It is public record, but I'm going to try to keep away from saying any lawyers, law offices, or the judge in this case's name. I'm going to try to steer away from that. I'm going to talk specifically just about CBS and Anas, and also now Netflix, which is a part of this lawsuit as well, which is another big update that they are zeroing in on not just CBS, but also Netflix, because they also had distribution rights and some production rights towards the show as well. So that's important to note. It's not just CBS on the chopping block, it's also Netflix. So what happened is end of December, early January, the lawyers that CBS hired filed a essentially motion to dismiss the case. They said that the entire case that Anas had filed is filed underneath common use laws, and that there was nothing specific about his video game that related directly to Discovery. And I want to bring up, I have the blog post that he talks about this right now, and I'm going to bring up the legal documents that he sent me, where they actually sent a joint letter to the judge to essentially rule on whether or not the case should be dismissed outright on his claim of a tardigrade and the gay scientist that matches the physical description of Paul Stamets in Star Trek Discovery. So let me read a little bit of this blog post here to you guys. It says, yesterday, January 2nd, a joint letter was sent to the judge, talking about the judge in this particular case in New York. The defendants, in this case CBS and Netflix, are trying to dismiss the case. First, they were defending themselves by saying, I'm trying to own copyrights to real-life microscopic tardigrades, and which he has never claimed. Now they're saying, I cannot copyright enlarged tardigrades in space. The creatures in the game are huge tardigrades, blue-lit, and being the research subject of a blonde botanist, of which later will be used to facilitate instantaneous space travel. I have been posting development updates on this blah 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 for since May 2014. The defendants are trying to emphasize on the few elements from their show that were not taken directly from my work, and they have since dug up several old cases, which they cite inside their legal documents for that joint letter they sent to the judge, saying that just because they're not direct copies and there are slight changes to it, like in this case, you know, the individual that uses the tardigrade here may have like a beard or a goatee, but When they're initially done, you can see right here from this thing, the blue spores and the tardigrade surrounding an individual that looks almost identical to Paul Stamets. So they cite several different cases here in this blog post and legal document saying that CBS and Netflix has claimed that it's fair use and that he can't claim this is BS, and that there's precedence for that, which is established. So the other thing is the fact that he's going to talk about here, the distribution of my project before September 2017 is quite excellent as well. Again, they're saying that there was they claim in the joint document that nobody was going to buy this game on Steam and that there was no distribution set up for this game, so that there's no infringement in his particular game, Tardigrades, that their property, which is Star Trek Discovery, does not affect his ability to distribute his game, which is also kind of a BS claim, because you could say the same for a lot of fan films that CBS likes to crack down on. The whole thing here is a whole hypocrisy of CBS cracking down on people either using some of their footage in their YouTube videos, which is basically me, and you also have people trying to make fan films which are using similar props and styles of Star Trek, and CBS basically saying, no, you can't do that, and if you do that, we're going to sue you to, the high heavens, or we're going to demonetize your videos and do a copyright strike on your account. So the whole hypocrisy here does not escape me. It apparently has escaped CBS, and they don't see the connection here. So they filed this joint letter, which I'm going to go ahead and swap over to right now. So this joint letter, and I'm kind of focusing in on just this particular page, and I want to read a specific excerpt from what CBS and Netflix have released to the judge in an effort to dismiss the case outright. It says here, this copyright infringement action, in the defendant statement, in which case is CBS, Netflix, the copyright infringement action is based on the meritless premise that, based on his Tardigrades game concept, plaintiff owns the exclusive right to create space-based fictional works that depict enlarged tardigrades in space-based fiction, which he is not claiming, actually, which they go through in this legal document saying that's not what they're claiming at all. As set forth in more detail in the defendant's pre-motion submission, and as they briefly summarized below, this action fails as a matter of law based on a host of fatal defects and should be dismissed at the pleading stage with prejudice. Most fundamentally, this action inaccurately falls upon a comparison of the parties' work because there are no actionable substantial similarities between the plaintiff's game concept and the defendant's Star Trek Discovery series. Tardigrades are a near-microscopic animal first discovered over 200 years ago that are well known for their ability to survive in space. As a matter of black-letter copyright law, plaintiff does not own any rights over the public domain scientific fact. Again, he's not trying to claim rights to that. The generic element plaintiff adds to the tardigrades in his game, namely enlarging them, is also not protectable as a matter of law. Beyond the unprotectable shared use of an enlarged blue tardigrade, which is depicted in only 2 of Discovery's 15 episodes. I like how they're saying that as if it doesn't matter. We only used it twice. What's the big deal? It's not a big deal. We only used it twice. It's nothing. It also did appear in Star Trek Online, which is also essentially licensed through Cryptic through CBS, so that also appeared on that particular show as well, that video game, I should say. Over the use of mere minutes. Again, they're trying to focus on the fact that it's not that big a deal. We only did it for a couple of minutes in 2 episodes. No big deal. The remaining similarities alleged by the plaintiff either do not exist, e.g. Discovery's tardigrade is not blue like the plaintiff's. Discovery's tardigrade is fucking blue. I don't know why they said it wasn't blue. It's blue. It's blue in Star Trek Online as well. It's blue. It's different shades of blue. It's not bright blue like the tardigrade's tardigrade is. But it's blue. It's like dark blue and it's light blue, and it has a mixture of blue colors. It's blue. Anyone who looks at the picture from the Discovery tardigrade would know that it's blue. It's blue. Good Lord. It's so ridiculous. Constitute unprotectable stock and generic elements that, indeed, have been used as part of Star Trek franchises, other works of science fiction, such as uniforms which delineate rank, and the use of luminescent blue materials in space. Star Trek has not used luminescent blue materials in space before. I don't know what they're talking about there. Not in the sense of spores like they have depicted in Star Trek Discovery, which mirrors exactly that of the Tardigrades video game. Consists of generic and stock character attributes that are likewise unprotectable, e.g. an African-American female officer, which both Discovery and Tardigrades share. Homosexual males, which again, the Tardigrades game shares as well as Discovery, and or are utterly trivial, using the term emitter. Okay, so this is their main crux, their argument right here. This whole thing right here is the main crux of their argument to get the case completely dismissed by the courts in New York. They're basically just trying to say that there are no direct similarities. We only used the tardigrade a few times. Tardigrade's public knowledge. It's not a big deal. We only used it twice. And the fact that we have an African-American female officer and homosexual characters that mirror the physical attributes of the characters that he has in his game means nothing. So, what happened? Well, first, I want to go ahead and share my thoughts on their argument. It's BS. Again, it's the hypocrisy here that really, really just gets me. It's just, they're like, well, it's not that big a deal. We only used it twice for about 15 minutes, and yet I can't use a still image from one of their episodes in my video for 20 seconds without them coming through and demonetizing it. The hypocrisy here is outrageous. It's outrageous. But, all right, so that's their argument. Anas and his legal team are not trying to claim copyright over the use of tardigrades in space. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that the specific usage of a male homosexual scientist, in this case in his game a botanist, who is then enveloped by a giant blue space tardigrade that uses spore-like substances to then cause instantaneous travel around the universe, is what is the copyright claim. That's what they're fighting for. So what happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Here we have the final update here. Yesterday, January 8th, the judge had a pretrial hearing in her very courtroom with all lawyers involved. That includes the CBS Netflix lawyers and Anas's lawyers. The meeting resulted in very positive outcomes that helped find the truth and serve justice. The defendant's request to dismiss the case based on it being a frivolous claim was not entertained by the judge. The defendant's argument kept going around me trying to own copyrights to the real-life tardigrades, which he, again, never claimed. That's what they're trying to focus on. They're trying to drag the case into the fact that Anas is trying to claim that he owns the rights to the tardigrades, and that's not what their case is about at all. But they're trying to drag it that way so that it appears as though that Anas is making this wild court claim that he owns the rights to a scientific creature that was discovered over 200 years ago. He's not doing that. The judge set the timeline for summary judgment motion, which means that the defendant's attempt to dismiss the case is limited to actual legal defects instead of generic claims. The judge also gave us discovery, which means that we can request and the defendants are compelled to provide information to support our case. The discovery order was only one-sided, which means the defendants cannot request information from them. So what does all that really mean? Basically, if Anas and his legal team want to request information from CBS and Netflix regarding the production of Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, they have to then provide that information. They are legally obligated to provide production notes or maybe possibly even script work as far back as when Brian Fuller was in the show and he was attempting to create this thing. They can do this in an effort to try to establish the fact that perhaps during their production they came across the game tardigrades and then utilized his ideas. They can definitely do that. The other really important factor is the judge denied CBS and Netflix the ability to request information from Anas and his legal team and them being compelled to do that, meaning that they don't get the opportunity to then gather potentially evidence against Anas to then try to pick apart in court. This is huge. So not only did the judge, she blocked this entire claim, but she provided them with the ability to request additional information from CBS and Netflix to continue to build their legal case for their copyright claim. This is a big, big victory. And I go back to what I said earlier, which is that some people have said that Anas doesn't have a leg to stand on, and all of this stuff is very generic in its terms, which is the approach CBS and Netflix took. And now we know that the legal teams at the court has decided, no, this is not generic. This is not just something that's coincidental, and that it appears to be way too connected, way too correlated to each other, and that there is a legal leg to stand on, at least for now. But this fight's not over. Anas and his legal team still have to continue to build their case to try to really prove the fact that the production team behind Discovery stole his idea. Whether it was intentional or not intentional, I don't know yet. I don't know at this point. But during their discovery process, they're going to continue to try to uncover more information about the production and why specifically, and really just how specifically they came up with the ideas of the physical look of Paul Stamets, the addition of certain characters that mirror exactly that to the characters of tardigrades, and the use of a giant blue tardigrade. Where did that information come from? Where did that idea come from? Did they scratch it up from the writer's room from scratch? Or did they magically, somebody walk in one day and say, hey, I happen to have this great idea I saw online. We should use it for our show. Did they document that? I don't know. Are they going to turn that information over? I don't know. Would they turn that information over? Probably not, because then that would make it seem as though that they actually stole his idea. So they are not done. This is still, we are at the bottom of the hill. They tried to stop Anas and his team from getting to the hill at all. But now they're at the bottom of the hill, and they have to go all the way up the hill. They have a huge, huge fight with CBS and Netflix to still go on. This case is far, far from over. But they did get a huge victory by being able to have a judge sit there and say, no, this isn't coincidental. This isn't frivolous. This isn't all just generic information. This stuff is very much connected, and the judge, at least for this point, is interested to see what other information and connections that Anas and his legal team can generate between themselves and Star Trek Discovery. So they have a huge hill to go up to still. But this was a great victory for this particular lawsuit, and for all of us little guys and gals that, you know, are constantly stepped on by big corporate lawyers and big corporate law teams that basically come through and say, well, they know we don't have the legal funding to fight them, so they just basically bully us around, and we just have to deal with it. So the fact that he's able to continue this case on is great, and I hope and I wish them the best. I will continue to provide updates as I get them from Anas and his legal team. As per usual, some folks did criticize the last two videos that I did, and some other folks' videos saying, well, you guys aren't providing enough details. You're saying that you have all this information, and then you're not giving it out. Again, I'm not giving it out, number one, because it's a legal case, and I don't want to get in trouble myself. And number two, at the request of Anas and his lawyers, to try to zero the focus in on just kind of the top-level facts and not give off too much information about the legal part of the case, because it's still an active lawsuit. And a video such as mine or a podcast or anything like that giving off too much information could hurt their case in the long run. So we want to do our best to provide all of you guys and gals with information about what's going on and the importance of this lawsuit and the current updates regarding it. But we do not want any kind of situation where we're damaging the lawsuit because we want to share information out with the public. So that's where we're at right now. So my final thoughts are this. Basically, I think that Anas and his lawyers need to continue on, steamrolling ahead. I wish them the best. I still think that there is a very strong legal case here to be made. And even if CBS and Netflix didn't intentionally steal his idea, and it is just on the wild chance that it was just all coincidental, you know, they at least owe this man an apology and to cover his legal fees. And they need to publicly apologize, I think, to Anas for even coming close to stealing his idea. And I think that if it does come out that they happen to know about his video game in some form or fashion, and they're able to connect those dots, I think that he should continue to sue them to the high heavens. So hopefully we get to see a positive resolution to this. My guess for the future is, as this case continues to build, most likely CBS is going to settle out of court, and they're probably going to increase a gag order onto Anas and his lawyers saying that you can't discuss why it is that we decided to settle or what that settlement was. That's my prediction. I think that they're going to want this to not to continue to go away, or they're going to want this to go away, and they're not going to want to continue to let this story build and build and build, because eventually it's going to get the attention of mainstream media at some point, because it is that serious, especially according to a judge who granted them full discovery of information and allowed the case to continue and didn't just straight up dismiss it based off of their BS claims. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, I'm desperate to hear what all of you guys and gals think about this case, so please throw your comments down below, and let's get this conversation going. If you guys still don't believe in Anas's case, I'm very curious to hear why. What makes you think that this is not a good legal standpoint of a good case? So I'm curious to hear what the naysayers are, not just the positive ones. So I hope that you guys and gals enjoyed this video, and I will catch all of you guys and gals next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!